Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going over the Iceland Iceberg. Let's dive in.
Vikings. Vikings settled Iceland in the late 9th century, mainly Norse settlers fleeing conflicts in Norway. They established farming communities and relied on fishing, livestock, and trade to survive the harsh environment. In 930, they founded the Althing, one of the world's oldest parliaments, to create laws and settle disputes. Volcanoes. Iceland has many volcanoes because it sits on the mid-Atlantic ridge, where two tectonic plates pull apart. Magma rises easily there, creating frequent eruptions over thousands of years. Famous volcanoes include Hekla, Katla, and Eyjafjallajökull, which disrupted European air travel in 2010. Reykjavik. Reykjavik is the capital and largest city of Iceland, located on the country's southwest coast. It is the northernmost capital city in the world and is powered largely by geothermal energy. Reykjavik is known for its colorful buildings, vibrant music and art scene, and landmarks like Hallgrímskirkja and Harpa Concert Hall. The Northern Lights. The Northern Lights, or Aurora Borealis, are commonly seen in Iceland during the dark winter months. They occur when charged particles from the sun collide with Earth's atmosphere, creating colorful light displays. Iceland's low light pollution and northern location make it an excellent place to view them. Blue Lagoon. The Blue Lagoon is a famous geothermal spa in southwestern Iceland, known for its bright blue, mineral-rich waters. It was formed from runoff water at a nearby geothermal power plant and is naturally warm year-round. The water contains silica and minerals believed to be beneficial for the skin. Leif Erikson. Leif Erikson was a Norse explorer from Iceland, born around 970 CE, and is believed to be the first European to reach North America. He sailed west from Greenland and landed in a place called Vinland, likely located in present-day Newfoundland, Canada. Leif was the son of Eric the Red, who founded the Norse settlements in Greenland. His voyages happened about 500 years before Christopher Columbus, making him a key figure in Viking exploration history. Alþingi. The Alþingi is the national parliament of Iceland and one of the oldest continuous parliaments in the world, founded in 930 AD. It originally started as an outdoor assembly where chieftains met annually at Þingvellir to make laws and settle disputes. Over time, it evolved into a formal legislative body, playing a key role in Iceland's governance and independence. Sagas. Icelandic sagas are medieval stories written mostly in the 13th century that tell about the lives, adventures, and families of the early Icelandic settlers, especially during the Viking Age. They mix history, legend, and mythology, describing battles, feuds, exploration, and everyday life in medieval Iceland and Scandinavia. These sagas are written in Old Norse and are some of the richest sources about Viking culture and early Icelandic society. Turf houses. Turf houses are traditional Icelandic homes built using a combination of wood, stone, and thick layers of turf. This building style helped people survive Iceland's cold, windy climate by providing excellent insulation and protection from harsh weather. Turf houses often had wooden frames covered by turf walls and roofs, blending naturally into the landscape. Settlement. The settlement era in Iceland began around 874 CE, when Norse Vikings, mainly from Norway, started arriving and settling on the island. The first permanent settler is traditionally said to be Ingólfur Arnarson, who established a farm where Reykjavik now stands. These settlers cleared land, built farms, and created communities, bringing their culture, laws, and religion with them. Icelandic Commonwealth. The Icelandic Commonwealth, also called the Icelandic Free State, was the period from about 930 to 1262, when Iceland was an independent, self-governed society without a king or centralized executive power. It was governed through the Alþingi, an annual assembly where chieftains and freemen made laws and settled disputes. This unique system relied on strong local authority and legal traditions, but had no standing army or monarchy. Law Speaker. The law speaker was a key official in the Icelandic Alþingi during the Commonwealth era. Their main role was to memorize and recite the laws aloud at the annual assembly, since Iceland didn't have written laws at first. The law speaker also helped settle disputes and guided legal procedures, acting as a respected legal authority. Þingvellir. Þingvellir is a historic site in Iceland where the Alþingi, the world's oldest parliament, was established in 930 AD. Located in a rift valley between the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates, it's both a cultural and geological landmark. At Þingvellir, chieftains and freemen gathered annually to make laws, settle disputes, and hold important meetings during the Icelandic Commonwealth era. The Christianization of Iceland. The Christianization of Iceland happened mainly around the year 1000 AD, marking the country's official shift from Norse paganism to Christianity. The decision was made peacefully at the Alþingi, where the law speaker and chieftains agreed to adopt Christianity to avoid civil conflict between pagan and Christian factions. The conversion was influenced by Iceland's close ties with Norway, whose king was Christian. The Old Covenant. The Old Covenant was the agreement in 1262 to 1264 through which Icelanders accepted the rule of the Norwegian king, ending the Icelandic Commonwealth. Facing internal conflicts and power struggles, many chieftains chose to submit to Norway in exchange for peace and stability. This marked the start of Iceland being governed under Norwegian control for centuries. Norwegian rule. Norwegian rule over Iceland began in 1262 to 1264, when Icelanders signed the Old Covenant, accepting the authority of the Norwegian king. This ended Iceland's independent commonwealth and brought the island under Norway's monarchy, which introduced centralized governance and new laws. Norwegian control lasted until 1380, when Norway entered into a union with Denmark, effectively making Iceland part of the Danish realm as well. Loki eruption. The Loki eruption was a massive volcanic eruption in Iceland that occurred from 1783 to 1784. It released huge amounts of lava and toxic gases, causing widespread environmental damage, crop failures, and a deadly famine in Iceland that killed about 20 to 25% of the population. The eruption also had severe effects on climate and weather across Europe, leading to colder temperatures and crop shortages. The Loki eruption is one of the most catastrophic volcanic events in recorded history and had lasting impacts on Iceland and beyond. Danish trade. The Danish trade monopoly in Iceland lasted from 1602 to 1786, during which Denmark controlled all trade with Iceland. Under this system, Icelandic merchants were only allowed to buy and sell goods through Danish merchants and ports, limiting Iceland's economic freedom. The monopoly caused economic hardship and restricted Iceland's development by fixing prices and reducing competition. Kingdom of Iceland. The Kingdom of Iceland was a sovereign state in personal union with Denmark that existed from 1918 to 1944. Under the Act of Union signed in 1918, Iceland gained full internal self-government but shared a monarch and foreign policy with Denmark. During World War II, with Denmark occupied by Germany, Iceland took over its own foreign affairs and defense. The kingdom ended in 1944 when Iceland declared full independence and became a republic. The Sturlung era. The Sturlung era was a turbulent period in Icelandic history from about 1220 to 1262. It was marked by intense power struggles and violent feuds between powerful chieftain families, especially the Sturlungar clan. These internal conflicts weakened the Icelandic Commonwealth and caused widespread instability. Jón Arason. Jón Arason was the last Catholic bishop of Hólar in Iceland and a major figure during the Icelandic Reformation. He strongly opposed the spread of Lutheran Protestantism, which was being enforced by Danish authorities. In 1550, Jón Arason and two of his sons were executed, marking the effective end of Catholicism in Iceland. Witch trials. The witch trials in Iceland took place mainly in the 17th century, especially between 1625 and 1685 under Danish rule. Unlike most of Europe, the majority of those accused and executed were men, often charged with using magic to cause harm or bad weather. Icelandic witch trials were influenced by Lutheran religious law and Danish legal practices, rather than local folklore alone. Turkish abductions. The Turkish abductions were raids on Iceland in 1627, carried out by Barbary pirates from North Africa, often labeled Turks in Europe at the time. Pirates attacked coastal villages in East Iceland and the Westman Islands, killing some people and capturing hundreds. Around 400 Icelanders were taken into slavery and sold in North African markets. Jón Sigurdsson. Jón Sigurdsson was a leading Icelandic scholar and politician and the main figure of Iceland's 19th-century independence movement. He strongly opposed Danish control and argued that Iceland had historic rights to self-rule based on its medieval laws and Alþingi. Jón became a symbol of peaceful resistance, emphasizing culture, language, and legal continuity rather than violence. The Alþingi outlawry system. The Alþingi outlawry system was a form of punishment used in medieval Iceland during the Icelandic Commonwealth. Instead of prisons, serious crimes were punished by declaring someone an outlaw, meaning they lost all legal protection. A full outlaw could be killed by anyone without punishment, while a lesser outlaw was forced into exile for 3 years. Blood feuds in the Icelandic sagas. Blood feuds in the Icelandic sagas were long-running cycles of revenge between families or clans during the Viking Age and Commonwealth period. When someone was killed or seriously wronged, the victim's relatives were expected to seek compensation or retaliation to defend their honor. Feuds often escalated because one act of revenge triggered another, sometimes lasting generations. Medieval Icelandic magic staves. Medieval Icelandic magic staves were symbolic signs believed to have magical powers, used mainly from the late Middle Ages to the early modern period. They were drawn on paper, wood, skin, or objects and were meant to provide protection, luck, victory, or control over nature, such as weather or fear. Many staves combined runic symbols, Christian elements, and folk magic, reflecting Iceland's mix of pagan and Christian beliefs. Famous examples include the Egishjálmur and the Vegvisir, which was believed to help people find their way in storms. Icelandic grimoires. Icelandic grimoires are medieval and early modern books of magic and spells written mainly in Old Norse or Icelandic. They contain instructions for rituals, magical symbols, charms, and incantations used for healing, protection, or cursing. These grimoires blend Norse pagan beliefs, Christian elements, and folk magic, reflecting Iceland's unique spiritual history. Some famous examples include the Galdrbók, a 16th-century manuscript that remains one of the best-known sources of Icelandic magic traditions. Elliðey Island. Elliðey Island is a small, remote island off the coast of Iceland, famous for a lone hunting cabin that often sparks curiosity and rumors online. The cabin was built by the Elliðey Hunting Association and is used seasonally by hunters, mainly for puffin hunting and birdwatching. Despite many internet myths claiming it's a mansion or a secret hideout, it's actually a simple, practical shelter with no permanent residents. The Cod Wars. The Cod Wars were a series of disputes between Iceland and the United Kingdom over fishing rights in the North Atlantic, mainly from the 1950s to the 1970s. The roots of the conflict go back to Iceland's efforts to protect its fishing grounds, vital for its economy and food supply, by extending its fishing limits beyond the traditional 3 nautical miles. As Iceland extended these limits to 12, then 50, and finally 200 nautical miles, British fishing boats resisted losing access.
And that was the end of the Iceland Iceberg. Thanks for watching, and bye.